Let's attend the day. I'm Isaiah Banky, the writer behind Lifelook, and this is Attending the Days, the audio side of the project where I read the essays aloud. Today, essay number 5, The Light, the Window, the Eye. At the edges of the day, wonder takes flight. When someone walks out at dawn or watches closely how dusk falls, taking in these moments in their fullness, when they sense what happens at such times, their profession drops away as if they were dead, although they now find themselves in the very center of life. Rainer Maria Rilke. Dad, what happens when we die? The question arrived with twilight, slipping in after the usual jostle for pillow real estate. He asked it casually, as if checking tomorrow's weather, not weighty nor fearful, just wonder floating in the dim glow of the sagging wall lamp that barely clung to its mounting. A child's room has its own gravity. I let the question linger. This 7-year-old's mind flourished in open ground. My task? Listen. Perhaps drop a few nutrient-rich seeds and let imagination breathe in that rich, deep mind soil he tended. Thanks for asking, I said. I love this question. I wonder about it daily, and still have no real knowing. No one does for sure. He nodded, unfazed. I volleyed back. Well, what do you think happens? He scrunched his face thoughtfully, eyes grinning in the half-light. I don't know, but I'm curious to find out. Actually, I'm excited about it. A pause snuggled between us. Did he mean soon? But not yet, he added, catching my thought. Not too soon, because what if nothing happens? Then I wouldn't get to live. Death, it turns out, makes pretty excellent bedtime conversation when you're 7 turning 8. No existential dread, philosophical posturing, or religious hand-wringing, just unobstructed wonderment about life's confounding exit strategy. His curiosity carried caution while his wonder acknowledged gravity, all without contradiction. He sensed what adults often struggle to accept: paradox. He carried no fear into it. No one had handed him an answer to defend, so nothing in him flinched. He held presence and absence at once, and that holding opened ground where opposites root and grow together. I felt Heraclitus murmur over my shoulder, "The harmony of the world is a harmony of opposites, like the bow in the lyre." Apparently that's how Heraclitus sounds. The lyre sings when its strings pull against each other. The bow sends arrows when its strings strain against the curve. Tension allows possibility to bloom. In Greek, biós means bow, and bíos means life. A mere accent shifts meaning. The first is a weapon, its power drawn from strain. The second is a lifetime, a mode of living, the daily arc we trace between rising and resting. Heraclitus summarily wordplayed. The name of the bow, biós, is life. Biós. But its work is death. One word, 2 forms, life stretched between creation and undoing, each drawn and following that same string. This twilight wanderer held something and nothing, extending life's pull in both directions without flinching. Maybe we become everything, I offered, when he nodded from my thoughts. Or nothing, flexing into his earlier suggestion. Or perhaps we return to whatever we were before arriving here. He narrowed his eyes, along the lamplight stretching across the wall toward the window, then looked at me. Maybe we go into that light, he gestured, or become part of the window. Or maybe, Dad, could we go into someone's eyes? I picked my jaw up off the pillow. Light, window, eye. 3 ancient portals drawn casually from his room. Sufficiently ordinary portals humans have long used to glimpse what lies beyond and within. He maps transcendence as he waltzed between whole and part and whole. No gleaning from preordained teachings, just accepting the room's offerings as metaphysical fodder. A 7-year-old's bedtime magic. He explored existence through what was at hand, immediate experience creating infinite mystery under the soft pull of a crooked bedside wall lamp. This wasn't Brick Tamlin and Anchorman pointing at furniture around the room. "I love lamp." He pointed at the window, the light in his eye, and found a portal. "I do love our sagging wall lamp." Like the bow and the lyre pulled taut, each threshold draws potential between what's seen and what's never fully known. A synthesis unfettered minds naturally uncover. He took the whole of death, broke it into a light and a window and an eye, then folded those 3 into something none of them was before. Whole to parts to a richer whole. Understanding moves like this. We meet a thing entire, break it into pieces we can hold, and then let pieces find each other again and rejoin, changed. Philosophers name this turning the hermeneutic circle. My 7-year-old ran it in toothpaste-splotched pajamas. He followed the music beyond the measures where adults often stall, in stanzas of graspable pieces where we fragment into certainty and lose the composition. We forget the song as we stiffen into single notes and let melody move on without us. In receding twilight, our ideas germinate between mind-space portals. Resonance emerges through the long song of silence spread across the empty prose of meaning. Empty the way that mind soil lies empty, quiet on the surface, seated underneath. Neuroscience affirms what mystics and poets have sung for millennia. Meaning and understanding live in and emerge through betweenness, the generative space where tension hums with creative possibility. It moves the way resonating bows do, one string waking another. I glimpsed Heraclitus grinning in the corner of my thoughts as this child held the bow of life and death in the same breath. Well, Heraclitus said, "Time is a game played beautifully by children." This young mind embodied this as he approached eternity with the same playful seriousness he brought to Lagos. Perhaps children understand time differently because they haven't yet learned to fear it. "What is this, anyway?" he pondered aloud. I turned. I couldn't answer, so I reached for an observation that Carl Jung surfaced simply. Life is a brief pause between 2 great mysteries. I suggested that perhaps our task might be to illuminate this pause with our potential. He nodded. He already was this insight. Decades of seeking brought me here by the long road. He arrived between brushing his teeth and asking for water. Naturally Ouroborosing the conversation, I asked, "What do you think happens before we arrive here? Before we were born?" He paused, then shrugged. "Maybe the same as we go into later. Or nothing." I couldn't help but pepper our philosophical salad with a dash of Heidegger's Geworfenheit, our thrownness. We arrive here without our choosing or explanation, facing a world shaped by circumstances we didn't create. Giving the salad another toss, I suggested we uncover our thrownness as we live into life's questions, co-creating experience as we shape and are shaped by our encounters. Our freedom rests in how we attend to this thrownness and participate with what wants to emerge through us. He nodded knowingly, as if I'd merely confirmed long-time suspicions. I wasn't even sure I knew what I just said. Philosophy sounds profound when tossing around word salads. 7-year-olds, mercifully, don't seem to mind. They're too busy living while we talk about it. Humbled and encouraged, I realized I'd offered compressed wisdom to someone who embodied it naturally. Children see truths adults often forget, buried under our social conditioning and inherited beliefs and the routine of habits. My brother and I wrestled with these mysteries at his age, weighted down by the solemn certitudes of heaven and hell our religious upbringing furnished. This young seeker swam freer with fewer prescribed buoys to paddle around. Not knowing was an answer. When we relax our habitual reach for sureness, quiet wisdom serves as shoreline. We were swimming with uncertainty, and the water was lukewarm. The waters of imperfect knowing offer swimming lessons as life is, full of complexities and strange surprises. The virtue of mortality's mystery releases us from fear's confines, and the degradation certainty most certainly delivers. Choice matters because time does, and each choice is a movement with living rather than waiting. Get off the banks and wade into the water. We are the permission to grow. Seeds don't ask for permission, they just do. They grow into whatever they were already becoming. Freedom's tucked into that growing as we co-author life spread across the stories we invent. Permission to write comes from the simple fact of being here, thrown into this luminous pause between mysteries. Twilight conversations expose how reality forms differently around the day's edges, neither fully light nor dark, but emerging between, a threshold that shapes existence itself. Betweenness lives where opposites extend toward each other, letting something new vibrate. Like music, it's born in relation, between notes and silence, tension and release. Meaning rides the resonance that breathes the whole. Reality pulsing through relationships where each note depends on the others. Science keeps arriving at this terrain and finding the mystics already camped there. It shows up with sharper tools, and every instrument turns out to be a portal. Iain McGilchrist, a neuroscientist and psychiatrist, spent decades watching how the brain attends and calls betweenness the living interval that generates understanding. In 1974, Lewis Thomas, a cell biologist, stared down his microscope long enough for it to become a window. He looked up and saw Earth itself as one living cell, humanity tucked inside its membrane. The life of a cell was his work. Carlo Rovelli, a quantum physicist, followed matter down to the smallest scale we can measure and found no things at all, only relationships, no interaction, no fact of the matter. A neuroscientist, a biologist, a physicist. No, this isn't the beginning of a joke. Different light, different window, different eye, all humming a tune Heraclitus carried 25 centuries ago. From mitochondria to ecosystems to the cosmos, relationships vibrate all the way down and all the way up. Indeed, it's the relation between neurons where meaning sparks, the silence between heartbeats where life unfolds, the interconnected space between self and other where love arises. Science, in its most poetic moments, hums along with what mystics have long known. The pulse of life emerges from the currents between things, not from the things themselves. Betweenness offers ways of seeing. Erwin Chargaff, a 20th century biochemist with the poet's grudge, said, "The great biologists worked in the very light of darkness. We have been deprived of this fertile light." Too much analytical glare blinds us to what actually lives before us. Chargaff pictured a flashlight beam in a lumber room. Useful, yes, yet narrowly fixed on the individual boards and beams in that room. Only when our eyes soften to the dark does a vaster architecture peer around and above, and you can see the broader picture. Everything, he warned, has been dragged into the self-conscious, verbalized, and analytical way of thinking. Our hunger for certainty and knowing often dries out the very field that yields wisdom. The fertile light of night lies in the contours of darkness. A century and a half earlier, the German philosopher Friedrich Hegel sensed the same rhythm when he wrote, "The owl of Minerva begins its flight only with the onset of dusk." Watchful wisdom takes flight at twilight, when day bends toward night. The middling hours unveil potential, often concealed in the fixed brightness of noon or the blind weight of midnight. Imagination and wisdom soar in the charged interval where light and dark dissolve into each other. Opposites transcend in betweenness. The day's edges invite us to linger, to dwell in that generative space instead of rushing through to conclusions. Something vital stirs between knowing and unknowing, self and world, question and answer, light and dark. Clarity ripens in its own season, and, more importantly, when we're ready to receive it. My friend and mentor once told me, the in-between is where we learn to love the questions as much or more than the answers. Living our clunky, chunky lives, not for others, but for our better selves, which is the best show of love we can make to others. Yes, I thought. His words remind me that love flies in the dusk, that uncertain air between what we hold and must release, the dwelling in betweenness. In betweenness, where dynamic relationships construct our experience of reality, I've come to recognize three values that seem to underwrite nature's movements. 1. Generosity. Potential offered without demand. The gift opens the space where everything else can happen. 2. Resonance. Life vibrates in interdependent relationships, where pattern answers pattern. Pluck one string and another hums. 3. Harmony. Opposites joined into something richer than their parts. It plays through tension, not around it. The three portals offer ways of living with these values. Light, window, and eye become instruments themselves, chambers through which notes resound and carry. In them, the classical ideals shift shape and carry a modified sound. Goodness becomes generosity embodied. Truth becomes resonance felt. Beauty becomes harmony unveiled. The trifecta of nature's music. And that music calls for a response. As Marc Scibilia sings in More to This, a song born from his own daughter's question about death. He sings, "The questions beg an answer, like a song begs a dancer." A dancer, after all, moves with music, in step yet separate. We join life's choir and move along its song. As questions beg, we sing our stanza in the key we can. We try a melody and hold our note as long as breath allows. We let go while holding on. We learn to cradle the question even as answers brush the surface. We take a beat and rest beyond certainty in that open field where harmony vibrates and generous questions unfold into more generous ones. Life is abundant. Nature's song reminds us that singing with questions and dancing with answers matters more than pinning them down. Aliveness shapes through resonance, not certainty. We left our conversation unfinished, held in generous silence where understanding unfolds. No tidy conclusions. This process isn't asking for my meddling, I thought to myself, as echoes of Jungian analyst James Hollis surfaced. Beware of those who offer answers. They may be sincere, but their answers are not necessarily yours. My potential manifests when I keep the fertile field open to let seeds do their seeding, when I resist adding to cycles of tribal conditioning. Young minds stretch toward their fullest imaginative reach. If I allow potential room to manifest at its natural pace, imagination breathes in its ever-changing becoming, a becoming where harmony reforms and so often yields beautiful ruptures. The lamp's low glow shifted, casting new shadows across familiar walls. The room held open its portals. and somewhere in the dark the bow called life hummed with possibility. As our conversation drifted into night, he rolled onto his side, content with frayed, untied threads. The lamp sputtered against the darkened wall as a window quietly mirrored its stillness. His eyes closed, but his wonder stayed open. In that good, unsettled space, we softly inched closer to a truth not of answers, but of askings held with care. Our small contribution to the endless spiral connecting child to cosmos, question to quest, finite thought to infinite mystery, a taste of the beautiful, unfinished business of the universe. If we resist our urge to define and fix things, to pin down the unknowable into neat little boxes, and instead learn to swim with uncertainty, we might just glimpse again the quiet wisdom of unencumbered minds. In betweenness, where breath meets world and self discovers other, nature reveals itself as an endlessly generous with potential, resonant in relationship, and harmonious in its tensions. At last, we return to the day's edge, where dusk exhales and light bends toward dark. Presence presses into absence, and answers dissolve into questions. Twilight holds the field where wisdom takes flight. Imagination breathes and love unveils itself as the luminous potential between mysteries. So, what does happen when we die? If the essay left something worth keeping, pull up a chair at the attending table. If you'd like the essays to find you, subscribe at read.lifelooknow.com. A book is taking shape there, and the rest of Lifelook waits at lifelooknow.com. Come find what calls to you.